this is my second take of this video because I said too many times the first time and I didn't realize it because I'm used to just not recording what I say. So, this is a video addressed to the Oakland University Board of Trustees and anybody who wants to know about the situation and anyone who wants to watch this video. I don't really care. This is my notes on the meeting. I would have spoken my piece at the time, but they had a policy that you needed to know to do this, and you needed to sign up 48 hours in advance for a community comment at the end of the meeting, which that meeting must have been 3 or 4 hours, which you get two minutes. Did I already say that? To speak your piece. 2 minutes. The argument for the data center was, I think it was an hour and a half long. It was a very long, I'll call it a presentation. So, my goodness, where do I begin? I couldn't check the meeting minutes because they're not available yet. So if any of these names are wrong, and also if I pronounce anyone's name wrong, I'm very sorry. As I recall, on June 26th, 2026, at the Oakland University Board of Trustees meeting, the major item of which was to move the data center project into the due diligence phase. There were 7 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 1 abstention. That was Stefen J. Welch, who did not vote no, but abstained. The yes votes belonged, as I recall, to Brian Calley, Trina Scott, David Kramer, Dennis Muchmore, Melanie Brown, Nate Engle, and Colleen Ochoa Peters. The project itself was, again as I recall, proposed by Stefen J. This Board of Trustees is appointed by Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who, if you follow the whole AI and Michigan data centers story, the greater story in the state, is pro-data center. We'll keep that in mind. I wanted to address the board, and I would like to take more than 2 minutes to do it. I really would. I wanted to tell them that they will hear and had heard anger from my peers. People were interjecting, people weren't always respectful. While this isn't my personal approach, I'm with them, right? They're crying out, really, because they're human beings with feelings, against this betrayal, the betrayal of fellow organisms in favor of machines and of an unwanted oligarchy. On that note, if ever it sounds like I'm exaggerating, please know I don't exaggerate what I see here. I respect my elders. I respect their wisdom. I was born after the 90s. As such, I have seen it in ways that they have not. I've only lived in the 21st century. I was also raised by my grandparents, who are now 83 and 73. So I hope you'll trust my wisdom about the effects of technology, especially technology of this scale, especially in the developmental years of a human life. And there are many more lives that haven't even yet met breath, right? Keep it in mind. That's all. What you do impacts the world. I really hope you'll trust the wisdom of my peers on the same thing. And I really, truly believe you need to trust us, trustees. I know everyone in that room was human. I'm not one of those people that doubts the humanity of those who oppose my view, right? They were all just there to do what they thought was right. Whatever that means to them, however they define it, I don't think anyone was being evil. I know trustees moved to pass this for different reasons. I know some of them probably voted yes because it's just the due diligence phase. Let's just see, right? What if things do get better? What if it does make sense to move forward with the project? What if the pros do end up outweighing the cons? But there are things that I implore all decision makers in the process to keep in mind. And when I say all decision makers, I don't just mean the 8 people that were sitting up there. I mean everyone in those chairs, everyone standing against the walls, everyone who couldn't be in that room, everyone who didn't want to, everyone who didn't know it was even happening. Every single person on this earth, your consent or dissent has power that maybe you can't even imagine, right? The presentation in favor of the data center, I noticed as it went along, had too many holes to even address in one sitting. The first thing I noticed was that they chose to use a euphemism to refer to the project, which you can come up with any reason you want for why they would do that, but you just have to ask. If you thought what you were doing was really, really right and there was nothing wrong with what you were doing, would you use a euphemism? Would you rebrand it? I don't know. I don't think I would. The ethos that they utilized made no sense to me. All these claims that were made were backed up by nothing. I didn't hear a single number, nothing about the requirements or effects of data centers that size, of the actual things that had happened already that were pretty comparable, if not exactly the same as what was going to happen with that project. There are plenty of data centers that size, which I actually gathered numbers on and held up on a sign. That was about data centers that size, not the straw man data center, which Mr. Mackey decided to go with as part of an argument that I still can't understand how it could possibly be considered compelling. So a lot of the claims were backed up by empty promises that can't be kept about a future we can't predict, or worse, by obfuscating the impact of the proposed facility by desperately pointing to a much, much larger facility and giving the numbers on that instead to make this one look benign. I can't wrap my head around that. A vast majority of the pro-data center argument was coercion and threats. People in my generation talk a lot about toxic behavior and toxic relationships. I think we try to be this very ethical generation, and so you hear a lot about bad behaviors, and one of them that gets talked about sometimes is people coercing and threatening others, like, oh, I'm going to hurt myself if you break up with me. And that is what this argument felt like. Threats of falling behind, threats of financial loss for faculty, and, you know, I've heard about that working at a university is not going to get you top dollar, right? And these faculty are facing the same rising cost of living as the rest of us. I understand that. But these threats are also fabricated from only one side of the story and don't even address the long-term effects of the more realistic outcome. This side of the argument just said, but look how bad that bigger data center is, and just trust me blindly, just trust everything I'm saying. Luckily, that sort of opened a door for me, in that I don't feel the need to be as overly scrutinous of my own rhetoric as I normally am. So, I feel a little more relaxed, so thank you. But I wanted to sort of mirror that point, where, without mentioning in detail my intimate understanding of the risks of modern technology as a direct victim, I ask that everyone keeps in mind the wisdom that it's given me and my peers from my experiences and what my friends and colleagues have told me about their experiences. I hear the opposition's claims of the project ultimately being a boon to students' careers, and I can't help but think of a future in which everyone realizes it was a trap. This sort of future that would nullify the usefulness of all those internships they promised. As AI grows and those jobs disappear for which the internships were so useful, everything becomes a subscription, which isn't even a wild supposition on my part. It's just the trend that I've noticed, and I think there's a definite social inertia as well, where I can see that happening absolutely, unless something crazy happens to stop it. We become completely divorced from nature, also based on a trend that is immediately observable in history and has only gotten worse. But if that doesn't help you picture the future enough, I also ask that you consider that the pay of those careers, that this opportunity provided to those students, probably won't be able to compete with cost of living if we keep feeding the big machine, right? The lower class just grows and engulfs everyone who didn't start all this. The only people who aren't getting poorer and poorer and poorer are, I don't know, Peter Thiel, the flock cameras guys and the data center guys and the ChatGPT guys. And not even the people who are involved with it or think they're gonna get a payout. At the end of the day, you're gonna get what the big guy thinks you deserve, which is nothing. This isn't like the auto industry creating a middle class. This is pretty much the opposite, right? I would like for the trustees to consider the impact of potential disenrollments, the loss of that tuition. The people that were there that day to protest were only the people who had heard about it, could come, had already woken up to the fact that this is a dangerous game we're playing, could clear enough time at 10 a.m. on a Friday. Imagine how many more there are, and, you know, if I may mirror the opposing supposition that progress will just happen in a certain way at a certain rate because I say so, like the argument about, well, we're still developing technology to be more eco-friendly, so it could just be better by the time we build it. I anticipate exponentially more citizens, students, prospective students, donors, getting sick of the anti-human sentiment in society and in technology. As people realize what's really up, if I may be blunt, you run the risk of falling behind in the way that really counts. Matilda Dodge Wilson's vision for the institution was brought up at a certain point in the meeting, and I couldn't help but notice how silly it sounded. Because if I had to put money on it, I would say she would not, she would not probably be for this. I think she would care about the human progress, not numbers and industry and how well you can support the, in my opinion, sordid direction in which society is headed. 1984, Fahrenheit 451, The Invisible Man, Animal Farm, like we haven't read about it before. Not that type of progress. I think she was into the progress of human kinship, right? Loyalty as organisms ourselves to all else that is alive. The natural world that bore us. Even if you could put your consciousness in some sort of drive and upload it into a robot, you'd be miserable, because it's a human consciousness and there's no way around it. You can do whatever you want to try to get it to work. You were always from here, and that's how it's going to be. That's who we are, and we should be proud of it, not turn our backs on it. I know the trustee's job is to safeguard the university's future, financially and as an institution. I know they're called to think in terms of either competing or falling behind. But you know there's more to the story. You know there's more to the story. You're a person. To compete is also to betray. And to do that scary thing, to fall behind, God forbid, is also to honor. And I firmly believe, you know this, the choice to honor will be the choice we don't regret in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. A lot of the people that voted on that will still be alive. And if they have children, and if their children have children. This superfluous update to the servers, where over the long term we only even use 10% of it and rent out the other 90% as a quick cash grab, could be done much more conservatively, with great results. The proposed update looks great now. It glitters like gold. And I know a lot of the people that voted yes are just going to try it out. Just see if it's feasible. Just, you want to do what's best for the university that trusts you, for the governor that appointed you, for your career and your family and your life, because we all face trials and tribulations, and sometimes it feels good to feel like you're succeeding. But if you think this is the way to do it, if the prospect pleases you now, please remember, it was also a pleasure to burn.